Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of Musical Musings, airing every Wednesday at 1 p.m. We broadcast this program from Rajamakan University of Technology, Peranakan, and this program will come to you in two parts. For the first part, I will introduce an artist and a song to you. We will talk a little bit about the artist, and then I will talk about the song a little bit, give you kind of its main themes, what the song is all about. Then we will go ahead and take a break and listen to the song. And for the second part of the program, we will analyze the lyrics. The lyrics are the words to the song, so we will especially focus on anything that may be difficult to understand, any difficult vocabulary, difficult slang, or any sayings that may be hard to understand. Then we will get to the news and the latest updates from the university, as always.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Gary Gray, and I am your host for the Musical Musings program. I am an American English teacher here at Rajamakan University of Technology, Peranakan. And I have been teaching here for about 8 years, and I do like to incorporate music into my classroom sometimes, and so naturally I am bringing to you this musical program. Now today's episode is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do. Well, it's going to be the same format, but in terms of the artist we're going to be doing, because I usually like to do a new artist every week. And over the last few months, we've also been doing something we call one-hit wonders most weeks. We have switched off of that a few times. Like one of the weeks we did Def Leppard. It was definitely not a one-hit wonder. The last episode we did the group Aha, who a lot of casual music listeners will think they're a one-hit wonder, because they had only one really huge hit. But they did have another big hit and a few other smaller hits. They're not really a one-hit wonder. Some people think of them that way. So we have gotten kind of off the track a few times with some other groups, some other bands. But mostly we've been focused on that. This week we're going to change it up a little bit, and we're going to do a group that is not at all a one-hit wonder. They're one of the biggest rock groups in history. And it's going to be a group we've already done before. We'll be doing a different song of theirs, of course. But we're going to do this group for a second time. And there's a reason, which I will explain. So we are doing, this week, the song Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who. So why are we doing this? Why are we going to do The Who again? Okay, because they were in the news this week, and they are going to be retiring. So The Who is retiring. Alright, so since we've already done The Who, and because this is a long song, so our song break is going to take a long time, and then analyzing the lyrics. Maybe not take quite as long, because there is a kind of long chorus in there, so there's a big part that repeats. But it's a little bit on the long side. So we're not going to spend a long time talking about the band, because we've already talked about them on a previous episode. It was a long time ago, so I will give you a little bit of background on them. But we have already discussed them. So again, we're doing The Who. They are a band from London that formed in 1964. So they've been around for more than 60 years. excuse me, 60 years they've been around. Actually, this will be their 61st year. So they've been around a long time, and that's why they're retiring. They're getting old. So the original band members are Roger Daltrey, Pete Townsend, John Entwistle, and Keith Moon. I will be honest with you, because I haven't paid too much attention to them lately. I'm not sure who is still with them. I believe I saw that it's Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend, but I don't think anyone else is there. And I know at one point Roger Daltrey was actually fired, so he's obviously back with them if he's there now, right? So I'm really not sure what their current lineup is. I haven't followed them in the past several years, even though I really like their music. I was a big fan of them back when I was a kid back in the 1980s. So I do really like The Who. I just haven't followed them much over the last few decades. For like the second half of their career, I haven't really followed too much. And it's not because their music is bad. I actually really like it. And in fact, when I go and listen to it, it's like, yeah, that's quite good. Like when I was listening to the song we're doing today in preparation for our episode. I was like, yeah, I kind of miss their music. I should listen to it some more. But I haven't. I haven't listened to it very much. But their style of music is also very interesting. It's kind of... Some people will call them like rock operas, kind of like Queen and Styx kind of do some of that type of music. And it's... They have a lot of power ballads, things like that. Generally speaking, it's just rock music. But they do have their own twist on it. It is really interesting, and it's one of the reasons why I like their music. I like bands that do kind of different things, bands that don't get too boring. For example, one of the artists we did not too long ago is George Thorogood and the Destroyers. He's got a couple of really good songs. The problem is he's really easy to get bored with, which I think is why he never became super famous. Oh, he was pretty famous. A couple of his songs are really popular. Everyone who's into music knows at least one of his songs. Everyone knows the song Bad to the Bone by George Thorogood. But all of his songs sound the same, which makes you kind of get bored with him very quickly. So The Who is very interesting. They're very different. I've talked before about how I kind of enjoy the synthesizer in a lot of music, and they're one of the first bands that kind of introduced that. In fact, you hear it quite a bit in this song. They don't lean on the synthesizer, like relying on it quite as heavily as some other groups do, but more so than most rock bands up until their time. So they were one of the first bands to kind of really incorporate the synthesizer into their music, which is another reason why I like them. I kind of like that sound. So again, The Who. And like I said, we're not going to talk about them too much, so we'll move on. So about this song that we're going to be doing, we're doing Won't Get Fooled Again. I believe the first time we talked about The Who on this program, we did Baba O'Reilly, I believe it was. So we're doing Won't Get Fooled Again this time. And that came out in 1971, so it was fairly early in their career. It wasn't like their first album, anything like that. They had been around since 1964. But it was still pretty early in their career when you consider they've been around for 60 years now. This was in 1971, so this was about 7 years into their career. And it was a very popular song. We usually do popular songs on here. A song being popular doesn't necessarily mean it's good. There are some really popular songs that I think are terrible. But generally, if a song got popular, it's probably pretty good. So I like to focus on more popular songs here, since I want them to be songs that you will enjoy. And this was quite popular. It got to number 15 on the chart on the rankings of songs. It got up to number 15 in the United States. And as I've mentioned before in the past, the U.S. chart is kind of what most people look at to gauge popularity. And I don't say that because I'm American, because I'm from the U.S. No, it's just, it has the most people of any English-speaking country. So if it's English language music, that's the country where you want to be popular in. So that's the one people pay most attention to. People will also look at the charts from the UK and even Australia sometimes. But generally, it's the U.S. where people look for the popularity. So this got to number 15 in the U.S. That's quite good. And again, it came out in 1971. So what the song is about, it's an interesting song because you think of most musicians and they're going to be on kind of the side of the people. And so when you're talking about government things, they're going to tend to be to the left, liberal. They're, fighting for the people. And this song, and I believe the members of the Who do hold those political positions. But that's what's kind of interesting about this song, is it kind of takes the opposite view, but only sort of. They've actually explained this song a little bit in some interviews, because what this song is doing is it's warning against the dangers of like a revolution, like the people rising up to throw out their government. It's actually warning against that. And when they were interviewed about this, they said that they're not really necessarily against that. The problem they see is that sometimes when you're angry with one government, so you want to throw them out, who do you put in their place? It could end up worse. We see that a lot, in fact, in the Middle East, where it's very unstable. Like in Egypt, for example. They had a president there who was not good. I mean, he was allied with like countries like my country, so maybe I'm supposed to think he's good, but he was really a dictator. He wasn't very good. So several years ago, they threw him out. But then the new people that came in are very kind of right-wing fundamentalist religious leaders. So they don't really have any more freedoms than they had under the other guy. It's just a different kind of dictatorship. So it was bad then, it's bad now. And in some ways it's worse now, because now the government doesn't have the same allies as it did. And so the last guy, even though he was bad, because he was allied with some wealthy countries like America and things like that, their country wasn't as poor as it is now. Now, because it was a dictatorship, yes, he kept most of the money. So yes, still most of the people were poor. I'm not saying it was not a poor country. It was. But it's probably even worse now. So that's kind of what this song is about. Not Egypt in particular, of course. That's just one example. But it's about the dangers of revolution. And that's where the title comes from, Won't Get Fooled Again. So you're saying you're not going to get fooled again by this new government that's coming in. And so that's what it's about. In fact, there's one line in the song. In fact, the song ends with this line. It's, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. And that's exactly what they're saying. You throw out the bosses, like, they're using like slang terms here. We're talking about the president or the prime minister of the country. We're talking about the leader of the country when we're talking about the boss. So the new boss, the new guy you put in charge, is exactly the same as the guy you just threw out. Same same stuff, same bad policies, same problems. Doesn't solve anything. So again, they're not exactly saying that they're against revolution, that they're against political change. In fact, I think they're very much for it. What they're saying is you have to be careful. There are some people that get all caught up in the excitement of a movement, and they basically support the change just for change's sake because they don't like what's there now. Well, what they're saying in this song is that's not good enough. That's not good. You don't vote for change just for change. You have to have a plan. What are you putting in place? What's going to be the new government? Who's going to be the new president? What are you putting in place of that? You need to have a good plan for what's replacing whatever it is that you're trying to get rid of. That's all they're saying in this song. It's not really anti-revolution. It's, you got to be smart about it. Okay, so that's basically what this song is about. And as you'll see when we go through the lyrics, some of it is a little hard to figure out exactly what individual lines mean. But again, the basic idea is meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's about being careful. Okay, so that's what the song is about. Like I said, it's a pretty long song, so let's get moving on here. So let's get to the song. And as always, those of you joining us on YouTube, we cannot embed the video, so we will give you the link. Please click on the link above to jump to the video. And once you're done watching the video, you can come back over here. And for those of you that are just listening, of course, we can embed the music. So anyone listening, radio, streaming, you should be able to listen just fine. So let's get to the song.
Musical musings, musical musings, musical musings, musical musings.
Welcome back, everyone. All right, so that was Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who. And that is a song about being cautious with political change, especially talking about big political change like revolution. But really, it refers to any sort of significant political change. It's about being cautious with that, being careful. And as I mentioned in the first part of the program, they're not exactly against that political change. This band, the members of this band, they're pretty liberal, open-minded, progressive. They kind of like change. They're in favor of that. But, you can't just have a change just to have a change. You need to have a plan in place. Okay, so let's get to the lyrics. So we start out with basically this revolution going on, right? It says, we'll be fighting in the streets with our children at our feet, and the morals that they worship will be gone. Okay? So I already mentioned that in the first part, that some of the lyrics here are a little bit tricky to understand. The morals that they worship will be gone. Okay, so what is that talking about? All right, so morals, that's morality, that's like your core beliefs of how you should behave. Like you don't lie, you don't kill, you don't do all those sorts of bad things. You act kind to someone, things like that. So basically what they're saying is all of those morals, they kind of go out the window when you're fighting in the streets. I believe that's what he's saying. Okay, and the men who spurred us on sit in judgment of all wrong. They decide, and the shotgun sings the song. Okay. So the men who spurred us on. To spur someone on means to encourage them. So what this sounds like, and again, the lyrics here are a little hard to understand. So I'm not sure who we're talking about as far as the men who spurred us on. Is that the new leader? I think it is. And what they're saying is that this new leader comes in, they're still judging, and they're still violent. Because it says the shotgun sings the song. In other words, when they judge someone, they're basically going to kill them. Like they do in bad countries. Where they put their political enemies in jail or kill them. Most good countries don't do that. So that's kind of what this is saying. And here it's really bad because they're not even just putting them in jail. They're just going to kill them. Okay? So I'll tip my hat to the new Constitution. Take a bow for the new revolution. Smile and grin at the change all around. Okay, so now this is saying, this is kind of the good part of it, right? But this is right at the beginning, right? This is right at the beginning. So when the change first happens, yay, everyone's happy, right? Because you got rid of what you didn't like. So you have a new constitution. When we say tip your hat, it basically means you're congratulating someone because they did a good job. You tip your hat to them. So in other words, the new constitution that you have is good. So he tips his hat to the new constitution. Take a bow for the new revolution. So take a bow. It means you did something good, like a performer on a stage will bow at the end of their performance. So I guess he's taking a bow because he was part of the revolution. So that's why he's taking a bow for the new revolution. Smile and grin at the change all around. The word grin, it's a short word. Maybe you don't know what it means. We don't use it very often. It means the same as smile. So he doesn't need to say smile and grin. It's the same thing. But, it's a song. We need to have the right number of syllables, the right number of sounds in each line for it to sound good. So he just says smile and grin. But it means the same thing. A grin is a smile. Okay, we continue on. Pick up my guitar and play just like yesterday. So already seems a little questionable here with the new revolution. Because it says just like yesterday. In other words, his life really hasn't changed. He picks up his guitar and plays just like yesterday. So yay, we have the new revolution, we have the new president, we have the new government, we have the new constitution, yay for the revolution, and his life hasn't changed. Okay, then it says, then I'll get on my knees and pray we don't get fooled again. So again, you see he's already cautious here. He has to pray that we're not going to get fooled again. Because once again, this revolution, there was not really a plan. He's still kind of happy. You see at the beginning there? Tips his hat to the new constitution. So we're happy. We get a better constitution. Yay. He's proud of being part of the revolution. He takes a bow for the new revolution. But then the second part of this verse is like, okay, yeah, pick up my guitar and play just like yesterday. Nothing's changed. He gets on his knees and prays that we don't get fooled again. So to get fooled means basically like someone plays a trick on you. So something bad happens when you didn't think that was going to happen. So he's worried about the new government not being good. And by the way, it says, get on my knees and pray. Here in Thailand, you should be quite familiar with that because most Buddhists, when they pray, they also get on their knees. But in Western culture, not everyone gets on their knees to pray. Most people in Western culture are Christian. That's the most common religion. We have basically every religion, especially in a country like America or the UK, which allows in lots of people. But Christianity is the biggest religion. And even in Christianity, not everyone gets on their knees to pray. There's basically two branches of Christianity. There's Catholic and there's Protestant. Catholics have been in the news a lot lately because they just elected their new pope. They just got their new pope. That's Catholic side of Christian. Protestant side is the other side. The Catholics, mostly, they will kneel down when they pray. Most of Protestants, not all of them, most of them do not kneel when they pray. So anyway, so that's why he's getting on his knees. I'm guessing he's Catholic. I don't know. Gets on his knees and prays. But I'm just letting you know that that's what some people in the West do when they pray. But that should be something easy for you to understand, since here in Thailand, I believe most Buddhists will do that as well. When they pray, they a lot of times will get down on their knees, especially if you're in front of a monk. I believe, I'm not Buddhist myself, but just from what I've seen, I believe you most of the times you will get on your knees and pray as well. Okay, so we continue on. A change it had to come. We knew it all along. We were liberated from the fold. That's all. Okay. Change it had to come. We knew it all along. That's easy enough to understand. We were liberated. To be liberated means you get released from something, freed from something. So we were liberated from the fold. From the fold means the group. So you were set free from this, from whatever that government is, basically. That's what they're talking about with the fold here. But then it says, that's all. So once again, we're concerned that there's no plan for what's next. Yes, you were set free. Yes, your revolution got rid of the old government, the old policies, whatever it was. But that's all. When we say that's all, it means nothing more. So we're free of that, but what's next? We don't know. Okay? And we continue on, and the world looks just the same. See, there we are. And history ain't changed, because the banners, they all flown in the last war. So in other words, it's all still the same groups. Nothing has changed. And when you think about it, that's going to be kind of true, because all the people around you are going to still be the same, right? So there's still going to be the same fighting. All the banners, that's like the flags, all the banners are going to be the same. Now, they don't necessarily mean that everyone has a flag. For example, if you think about here in Thailand with politics, we have many different political parties. They don't each run around with their own flag. I mean, they're all Thai people. They all go with the Thai flag. So it doesn't mean necessarily a flag. It just means all of these groups are still there. Yes, Group 2 might have taken over for Group 1 because of the revolution, but Group 1 has not gone away. And it doesn't mean Group 2 has gotten any bigger. They get power for now, sure, but that's it. Everything's still the same. Okay? The world looks just the same, and history ain't changed, because the banners, they all flown in the last war. Okay? And then we get the repeat kind of the chorus there. I'll tip my hat to the new revolution. I get on my knees and pray. Won't get fooled again. Okay. Continuing on. I'll move myself and my family aside if we happen to be left half alive. I'll get all my papers and smile at the sky, for I know that the hypnotized never lie. Okay, so that little piece there is a little hard to understand. This is another section that even I'm not sure exactly what they mean. But I'll move myself and my family aside. Okay, so in other words, they're trying to stay out of the way. Because again, we don't know what's going to happen. If we happen to be left half alive. So again, the whole violence of the revolution can create like literal violence, and so there are problems. So again, we have to be cautious with the revolution because you're causing problems. So I'll get all my papers and smile at the sky, for I know that the hypnotized never lie. Okay, so there's the part that I'm not really sure what he means. Get my papers and smile at the sky. Okay, I guess with his papers, maybe he just means his important documents since he's moving his family aside. So make sure you have everything you need. Smile at the sky. Again, probably just happy to be alive. We mentioned being left half alive. But I know that the hypnotized never lie. Not sure what he means by that. To be hypnotized means that you're kind of like under a spell. But I would think a hypnotized person would easily lie. I don't know. So let's just continue on because I'm not sure what that line means. All right. Okay, so now we move on, and this is basically the end of the song. This is the last verse. There's nothing in the street looks any different to me, and the slogans are effaced by the by. Okay, so basically he's saying, again, everything's the same. Nothing in the street looks any different to me. The slogans are basically all the same as well. And the parting on the left is now parting on the right. And the beards have all grown longer overnight. So parting means to leave. So again, not clear exactly what he means. People leaving on the left, they're now leaving on the right. We're probably talking about political movement here. But it's just shifting around. That's kind of what he's saying. That everything just shifts a little bit here, there. It's not really a big change. And meanwhile, we're all getting older. That's what it means when he says your beards have grown. Beards have grown longer. That's kind of a image we have in Western culture. If you want to show like a man getting older, you'll show his beard getting longer, or maybe his beard getting grayer. Of course, not all of us have beards. I don't have one. I can't really grow one very well. I can grow a little scraggly one. I've had one before, but it doesn't grow well. But that's kind of an image we have. So the beard growing longer just means he's getting older. Okay? And then we continue on with the chorus again. And then we end the song with that iconic line that I mentioned. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. So again, a lot of the words in this song a lot of the lines in this song are a little bit confusing, exactly what they mean. Especially that one line, for I know that the hypnotized never lie. Not really sure what he means by that. I think people that are hypnotized will do whatever they're told. In fact, that's kind of a popular little trick or whatever. I don't even know what you want to call it because I don't even know if people can really be hypnotized. But it used to be a popular trick like at the circus or something. Someone would hypnotize the whole audience and get them to do something silly usually. Like they'll make some noise every time I say a certain word. Something silly like that. So you can get people to do things. So as far as I'm concerned, the hypnotized will always lie because they'll do whatever you tell them to do. So again, not sure what that line means. We have quite a bit of that in this song where there's a little bit of confusing things that they say. But the basic idea is pretty clear, right? We talk about the change, it had to come. So we're talking about the change and the revolution and the new constitution. But then we have these other lines. Pick up my guitar and play just like yesterday. There's nothing in the street looks any different to me. So he's basically saying that nothing has changed. So again, this is about being cautious with any sort of political change. It doesn't say that change is bad. That's not what they're saying. And when they were interviewed about this song, they made that clear. Because like I said, these guys are pretty progressive. I think they're in favor of change and in favor of moving forward and having progress in our politics, in our governments, in our in our whole social way that we behave, as far as like what's socially acceptable and things like that. For example, something like same-sex marriage just became legal in Thailand. That would probably be something these guys are in favor of. Moving forward, that's viewed as kind of social progress. Some people don't think it's progress. Some people don't like it. That's why there's a big political fight over it. But people that believe in that sort of progress do think that's a good thing. So these guys are generally in favor of that type of thing. So they're not saying that change is bad. What they're warning against here in this song is change just for the sake of change, because you don't like what's going on now. It's fine that you don't like what's going on now. It's fine that you want change. That's good. But you need to have something. You need to have a plan. Whether it's you just want to change a policy, so you need to have a policy plan already worked out to move in to change the current policy, or whether it's the whole government, or whether it's just like the prime minister, like you have an election coming up, you don't like the current prime minister, you got to have a good one in place that you like. And see, that's the problem, and that's exactly the problem we had kind of in America, is that nobody really wanted, well, I shouldn't say nobody. There is a big core of support, but it's a minority. It's well under 50%. Of people that actually like Donald Trump, for example, who won our last election. Most Americans don't like him. They don't like him. They don't want him to be the president. In fact, his approval rating right now in America, because Americans love polls and seeing how much someone is liked, so we have these polls all the time that they take. And right now, he is the least popular president ever at this point in a presidency. Ever. Since they've been since they've been taking polls in the last, 80 years or so. 80 to 90 years. He's the least popular president. Americans don't like him. So how come he won? Because the other side didn't have a real plan. In fact, they swapped out their candidate halfway through the election cycle. It was Joe Biden, and then they decided Joe Biden was too old in the middle of the race, and so they then replaced him with Kamala Harris. Now, I would argue that they did have a plan. And I personally like Kamala Harris and voted for her, so I don't think there was a problem there. But to a lot of Americans, it was a problem. It looked chaotic. Like you're changing candidates right in the middle of the race. Like there's no plan. You don't know what you're doing. You can't do that. And America, even though it's thought of as being very free and very liberal, maybe not so much anymore, not right now with what's going on, but generally it's thought of that way, it really isn't. It is pretty conservative when it comes to exactly what this song is about. So America kind of follows what this song is about. Warning of change for change's sake. We don't really do that very much in America. We don't do that. There needs to be a plan. And so, even Donald Trump, you would say that is a change because we had Joe Biden in there. It kind of isn't a change because Donald Trump was president before, so we at least knew what we were getting. Now, most of us don't like that, but do you not like it enough to go with the side that is the side that's not for change, or the side that's not organized? Rather, to go with the side that's not organized, doesn't have a plan. Now, I do dislike Trump enough to go with the side that doesn't have the plan, so I did vote for her. And again, I do think they had a plan. But to a lot of Americans, that's the way it looked. And so they voted for Trump anyway, even though they don't like him. And that's how we got Donald Trump the second time. Now, maybe if you don't like Trump, as I don't, then this song is not very convincing. Because, like I said, I think this applies to him, and America kind of took this approach of being cautious. And so they went with the guy they knew, even though they don't like him, over the chaos they were seeing on the other side, where they're switching out their candidate in the middle of the election. And so America followed this, and we ended up with someone that most people don't like. Now, any Trump supporters out there who might hear this might say, oh, well, no, they made the right decision. Well, yes, we have people on both sides that will argue either way, but just based on like I said, based on the polling, no, most people don't like him. So maybe what this song is warning about actually isn't smart. Maybe you should just change for change's sake. But for the message for this song is no. They say you should not change for change's sake. Okay, so that is Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who. Now, I always close out with mentioning some other songs by groups that you may want to listen to. We've already done The Who before, so I've already mentioned them, but I will quickly run through a list of some of their most popular songs. And there are a lot. As I told you, this is one of the most famous bands ever. So they have Baba O'Reilly, which is the song we did before, I Can See for Miles, Pinball Wizard, which is one of my favorite songs by them, Magic Bus, Behind Blue Eyes, Squeezebox, which is one of my least favorite songs by them, My Generation, Who Are You, You Better You Bet, and See Me, Feel Me. So those are some of the songs you may want to listen to by them. They have lots of songs. They've been around for 60 years. They're one of the most popular bands ever. Lots of good songs to listen to from The Who. Okay, thank you for joining us for today's Musical Musings program. Please stay with us and tune back in next week for another great song. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.
Musical musings, musical musings.